There were a decent amount of 2.5D platformers in the 32-bit era, such as Pandemonium, Clockwork Knight, and Tomba, which was also a '98 PlayStation release. But Klonoa may very well be the best of all of these. The levels are incredibly well designed. You aren't just running left to right and jumping over things. You need to use your abilities wisely to get around obstacles and reach new areas. The same goes for the game's bosses, which are some of the best on the system, often being multi-tiered and requiring strategy and skill to defeat. And even if you do make it through the levels, there are optional collectibles that require you to fully grasp the game's mechanics in order to reach. A sign of a great game. The presentation of the levels is excellent as well. You often see an area in the distance that you later end up in. This, of course, seems obvious in a fully 3D game, but in something like this, it definitely takes more thought on the developer's part. There are also little details in the environment, like these little red guys going down a slide and jumping into the water, that really make the world feel alive and well thought out. And then there's the presentation of the story. This game really feels special. Everything is told via text as the characters speak in their own unique language. Really, it feels almost like an RPG. And that is a good thing, because it ends up being just as epic and emotional as a lot of RPGs from the era. As with the previously mentioned Clockwork Knight, which I covered in my video on the Sega Saturn's launch lineup, Klonoa feels very much like an 80s anime film in its overall tone, along the lines of something like the Unico movies. Despite its cuteness, things do get fairly dark. I mean, look at the villain. He's not some derpy mad scientist. He's actually evil. And you better believe it, when you do finally face him, things get pretty intense. Now, the game does have some issues. Among other things, the checkpoints look very similar to other collectibles and don't reappear at the spot where you revived. You may play through the entire game without knowing what they are. And although it never feels cheap, the grabbing can often require a bit more precision than I would say is necessary. However, these things hardly affect the experience as a whole. Klonoa is a game that is well worth playing, and is a great example of expanding on the 2D platforming gameplay of the 8 and 16-bit generations to fully bring it into the 32-bit era, while still remaining a 2D platformer at heart.